Continuing from the previous episode 19, the Buddha's Fury Lotus has always been Xiao Yan's biggest killer. When in Doqi continent, Xiao Yan used Fen Ju to forcibly fuse a variety of different fires into a tiny lotus seed with terrifying power, finding the right opportunity to inflict heavy damage on the enemy. Since obtaining the inheritance of the ancient Emperor Tuosh, with the power of the first Emperor Yan on the Yuo list, the fusion of Yuo has become much smoother, and the power is also much greater, although Xiao Yan has his own master left behind. Emperor's Flame Ring. There are also a lot of medicinal herbs and fighting skills in it, but when you come to Duty continent, one is that there is no time to study carefully, and the other is that there is no suitable place, so now you can deal with the strong. There are few fighting skills that can be used to attack, and you can only rely on the violent force of the fusion of different fires to kill. Boom boom boom. The terrifying berserk factor rippled in circles and circles. A huge tunnel appeared where the man in black was originally, and the aftermath spread out in circles, and after a while, there was smoke. After dispersing, in the huge tunnel, a mutilated figure slowly appeared in front of several people. Originally, the man in black was a little disdainful of Xiao Yan, who used the secret method to increase his strength. He thought that this kind of ant could easily handle the ants in his hands. How could he imagine that this kind of ant could actually display such a terrifying offensive, and he almost died. This Xiao Yan in front of him is really damn. The man in black who survived from the blast center, Xiao Yan looked at it carefully and only lost one hand and one foot. You must know that it was the Buddha's Furious Fire Lotus, which was bred by combining the violent power of the 6 different fires, and it also fell into a short stagnation after the soul attack of Qing Yuan's full-strength strike. The only means of defending against the soul attack was Xiao Yan. It was shattered in the previous attack, and even Xiao Yan's strongest attack only caused heavy damage to the man in black. That man in black with a complete 3-star Do D would be so terrifying. The black-clothed man's hands and feet continued to have some dark black blood flowing out, and the blood flowed from the broken hands and feet, giving people a pungent smell of blood from afar. Little bastard, you can actually force me to be so embarrassed. I have to kill you today to sacrifice to my demons. The man in black roared at Xiao Yan with an unsightly face. Xiao Yan looked at the ferocious face of the man in black before him, and almost subconsciously made a move, because even though the man in black suffered such heavy damage, the aura emanating from his body was stronger than just now. Years of combat experience made Xiao Yan know that it meant that the man in black in front of him was going to use his trump card. Even if they die together. All dead souls obey my orders, sacrifice. The man in black took out a bag with his only remaining hand, and shouted loudly. Immediately, some soul bodies flew out of the bag that the man in black took out, all of them flying into the sky. Just drown in this darkness. Ha ha ha. After speaking, the unsightly body of the man in black burst into flames. Xiao Yan felt the smell of destruction from the actions of the man in black, and the attack that was almost on the verge of being shot had to stop under the demonic energy that filled the sky. Pieces of dark aura slowly floated into the sky from where the man in black was, forming a huge figure. The original face of the man in black was projected into a huge evil figure in the sky. Except for the head, the whole body of the huge figure was covered with dense human heads. Damn it, Master, what should we do? Xiao Yan asked in a deep voice. Indeed, the situation in front of him has surpassed Xiao Yan's understanding, and immediately he had to ask his master Jinlong King for help. It's actually the corpse control method for the soul of the corpse demon family. The Golden Dragon King exclaimed in surprise in the ring. Don't worry about this. Look at the black shadow on the ground where the man in black is. That means that the soul he collected has not been fully integrated into the ghost in the sky, we are in, etc. Because this corpse demon family pays attention to collecting souls and controlling corpse puppets, this is a good thing for you. The Golden Dragon King couldn't help laughing. Master, why don't we save them and let the ghosts merge like this? I'm afraid. Xiao Yan didn't know the strength of the Golden Dragon King very well, so he couldn't help worrying. It's not impossible to save them, but according to my observations, most of them have been eroded by the demonic energy of the demon race, and their sanity may not be completely left, and these souls already know that even if they fight hard, they will inevitably be swallowed up, but if you liberate them, wouldn't it be a big supplement to you? The Golden Dragon King looked at Xiao Yan and asked. As for my strength, you can rest assured. When I was at my peak, this kind of ant was not worth mentioning, even if the state of my soul is not something to be afraid of. The Golden Dragon King exuded a powerful coercion. Although the Golden Dragon King is not a pharmacist, his understanding of pharmacists is no worse than others. Although it is indeed too cruel to use the soul to enhance the power of the soul, it is better to help these souls to free them than to be enslaved by the demons. It will be very grateful to integrate into Xiao Yan's body. Because after all, they are all strong in the Great Thousand World, and the Great Thousand World is at odds with the demon race. Collecting souls? It's the same as the Soul Clan on the Btth2 continent back then. Although the purpose is different, the method can only be collected by killing countless creatures. Read link to www.youcanshu.com. Xiao Yan looked at the sky, the phantom that was still strengthening. More and more souls drifted to the sky from the black smoke turned by the men in black. There are weak souls, and there are also powerful souls, but they are all merged into the shadow of the sky. Xiao Yan saw a trace of prayer in their eyes, as if praying for Xiao Yan to free them. After all, they are all from the great world. The strong, even if they die, they are not willing to be used by the demons. CC. When the last soul merged into the shadow in the sky, the shadow exuded a monstrous and evil aura, causing the entire small space to tremble slightly. Xiao Yan looked at the huge ghost in the sky and remained silent. In the distance, Yueru had just recovered from the vibration of the Buddha's wrathful fire lotus, and then she saw the moment when the man in black turned into a gigantic ghost. Her little hand couldn't help covering her slightly trembling lips. Today, I'm going to die. Are you here? Qing Yuan, who was on the side, had just launched a soul attack, which obviously used all the strength of his body, and also passed out. Xiao Yi stood beside the two girls, looking like a cute porcelain doll from a distance. Xiao Yi, Yueru, take good care of Qing Yuan, stay away, trust me. Xiao Yan hurriedly comforted. Xiao Yi and Xiao Yan have a heart-to-heart connection. Naturally, they know Xiao Yan's plan. They stretch out their pink and tender little hands and pull Yueru and Qing Yuan back. Yueru said, Sister Yueru, don't worry, the master will deal with it, we have to trust the master. Seeing that Yueru was not so frightened anymore, her eyes focused on the thin man in front of her. Master, now that the shadow is fully formed, what should we do? Xiao Yan listened to the words of the master, and waited until the shadow was completely condensed before asking. Continuing from the previous episode 20. The next thing is to conquer it. The Golden Dragon King looked at the huge ghost in the sky that was condensed by many soul bodies. The corpse control method of the corpse demon family has a dot on the forehead of the corpse. That dot is not easy for ordinary people to find, but it is the biggest nemesis. The corpse control method of the corpse demon family is also extremely perfect, but I have dealt with them a lot, and the only drawback is also known. The corpse control method is originally a magic circle, and the eyes of the circle force all souls together. Eyes, the shadow in front of me is also unbearable. The Golden Dragon King said to Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan tried his best to use his soul power to look, but he didn't find the so-called formation eye on the top of the ghost's head. It seems that the formation eye should be hidden. It takes an accurate attack to make the formation point appear. Xiao Yan had a plan in his heart. He used his vindictive energy, surrounded himself with strange fire, and attacked the ghost. Although the evil aura emanating from this phantom was stronger than the aura of the man in black just now, even if it reached the level of a 4-star fighting emperor, the phantom was too cumbersome and had no wisdom at all. Knowing the slaughtered war machine, Xiao Yan dared to fight against it. The huge ghost in the sky constantly exudes an evil aura. In this small space, wherever the ghost goes, the trees wither rapidly, leaving no grass behind. Great heavens, good fortune palm. Xiao Yan looked at the shadow that was getting closer, and walked away with one palm. A huge energy palm print whizzed away at the ghost, and the strange fire slowly surrounded the palm, attacking away with the slightest sound of breaking wind. Hoo-hoo! The huge ghost was waved and the energy palm print was dissipated, but the flames of the strange fire did remain on the ghost's hand. When Xiao Yan launched the attack, he deliberately avoided the blind spot of the ghost's vision. Although Xiao Yan himself knew that the heavenly fortune palm of the heavenly rank fighting skill could not cause too much damage to the creature in front of him that was comparable to the 4-star fighting emperor, but I didn't expect that the defense and reaction of this phantom would be so terrifying. Xiao Yan's attack seems to have attracted Mo Ying's attention. Mo Ying just wanted to attack Xiao Yan, but unexpectedly the strange fire on Mo Ying's arm was burning violently, and Mo Ying let out a roar. It was a lot of damage, but Mo Ying's clumsy body was helpless with this strange fire. He hurriedly looked at Xiao Yan with fierce eyes, and his eyes seemed to devour Xiao Yan with hatred. "Master, the flame has already attached to the arm of the ghost. What should I do next?" It turned out that his master, the Golden Dragon King, secretly told Xiao Yan just now that as long as the flame was attached to the arm of the ghost, the next it was handed over to the master, the Golden Dragon King. "Leave it to me next, take a good look at it. Although your strange fire is not a holy flame, it is not much different. From what I can see, your strange fire is the same as the holy flame." Restraint. Looking at Mo Ying and Xiao Yan explained, "Leave the control of your body to me for the time being." The Golden Dragon King said to Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan immediately understood the meaning of the master, and did not obstruct him, letting Jinlong's soul control his body. Hey, I haven't encountered the Corpse Demon Clan for many years." Xiao Yan's voice seemed to be slightly different, and then he didn't care about the huge ghost in front of him. The huge breath slowly woke up, and the breath of the ghost in front of him was one in the sky and one in the ground. Yueru in the distance couldn't stand the evil aura emanating from this huge ghost for a long time, so she passed out, but fortunately, Xiao Yi was there to take care of her. "You were all strong men in my world before you were alive. Unfortunately, you were killed by the demons, but your souls are still being driven by the demons. Are you willing? You must have vividly remembered the many injuries caused by the evil races from outside the realm to the thousands of souls in my world. Are you willing to help the tyrants in this way? Does the dignity of your strong man allow you to do this?" The different Xiao Yan roared at the huge shadow in the sky, exuding an aura that was no less than that of the shadow. When Xiao Yan roared these words, a huge ghost in the sky was attacking Xiao Yan suddenly changed. The originally aggressive ghost figure was covered with many soul bodies. After Xiao Yan said those words, there was a trace of resonance from the depths of his soul. Xiao Yan's seemingly simple roar contained a huge amount of soul power, which was directly transmitted to the depths of every enslaved soul through the power of the soul, so that the last trace of reason in their hearts and the dignity of the strong were instantly stimulated. "Come out, not reconciled." Many souls roared furiously, as if to say, "The many souls that are covered on the ghost-like scales are violently resisting, trying to get rid of the enslavement of the ghost. Many souls are constantly breaking free, like scales are about to fall off, but the ghost also knows this situation, and let out a long roar. The soul that was about to break free is under control in an instant." More and more soul bodies began to break free and escape, although they also knew that even if they escaped the enslavement of the ghost, they would not miss the chance, but the feeling of being enslaved by the demons felt like a great shame to them. "Which strong man is willing?" The soul bodies looked at Xiao Yan's direction one after another, as if they were asking for help from Xiao Yan, because they were not willing to be enslaved by the demons. "It's time to end." Xiao Yan stood up and clapped the dust on his hands. The Golden Dragon King controls Xiao Yan's body. The reason why he wants to awaken the rationality and unwillingness of these linked to souls www.novelmtl.com is to clean up the ghosts, and to make these enslaved souls devour later. And prepare. The soul of the huge ghost in the sky resisted violently, and it looked like scales were about to fall off, because they also knew that if they didn't resist this last chance, they would be enslaved by the demons for the rest of their lives. He is a strong man in the world, how can he be reconciled? Xiao Yan looked at the huge ghost in the sky that was taking care of itself, raised his hand, and lightly touched the top of his head. Broken. A loud voice came from Xiao Yan's mouth. I saw a seemingly small beam of light attacking the huge ghost in the sky, but the seemingly small beam of light actually contained ancient and terrifying power. Bang bang bang. Several explosion-like sounds came from above the head of a ghost, and the ghost that was still screaming in the sky and exuding an evil aura was unexpectedly fatally struck by Xiao Yan. Due to the beam of light, the shadow was sluggish for a moment, because the eye of the formation was destroyed. Obviously, this demon corpse was solved. The ghost in the sky festered, and countless souls poured out of the unsightly body. They all bowed to Xiao Yan, and they were very grateful to Xiao Yan for saving them. It's up to you whether you can conquer it or not. After the Golden Dragon King finished speaking, he regained Xiao Yan's control. Xiao Yan was too lazy to be distracted by this almost slaughter-like situation. He lowered his head and looked at the huge shadow above. With the palm of his hand, the ancient ruler of eternal fire flashed out, and immediately slashed at the shadow. A huge flame of hundreds of feet burst out, directly splitting the ghost, revealing countless black chains entangled in it, and at the end of those chains, there are countless soul lights hanging. Group, continuing from the previous episode 21. Looking at the thousands of soul bodies, Xiao Yan couldn't help but jump in the corners of his eyes. These asterisk of the demon race are just like the soul race. They are completely taking advantage of other people's powerful souls to capture and swallow them as nourishment. Or as an energy provider for corpse control. Simply inhumane. Xiao Yan waved his palm lightly, and the terrifying strong wind blew like a gust of wind. At this moment, he slowly opened his eyes and looked around weakly and blankly. He just fused with the ghost and became fat and consumed their few strengths. Feeling that the chain that originated from the soul was broken, and finally there were waves of extremely ecstatic soul fluctuations. Although they didn't know exactly when it happened, they felt a sense of freedom. How many years? They were locked up like prisoners in a dark space with no sunlight, and now they are locked in a shadow, and sometimes even death has become an extravagant hope. Let's all go. Don't let the demons catch them again. Looking at these souls who were almost in tears with ecstasy and excitement, Xiao Yan also sighed softly. In the sky, countless souls were entrenched, and in the end, they all knelt down to Xiao Yan and bowed to him, but not a single soul left, but looked at Xiao Yan silently and motionless. Countless souls are also aware that the origin of their souls has been eroded by the demons, and it is impossible for them to return to normal after going out. Seniors, my Daqin world is at odds with that foreign evil clan. I hope the seniors will help me. The kid must do his best to protect the Daqin world. Xiao Yan is not stupid either. Looking at the countless soul bodies in the sky while talking silently, he bowed deeply and roared. The countless souls in the sky first stagnated for a second, and they immediately understood that the man in front of them not only saved them, but also possessed the wonders of heaven and earth such as the fire spirit, and then the overwhelming sacrifice was like that. With the plan, the tens of thousands of soul bodies in front of Xiao Yan all turned into pure forces and gathered into a light group that stayed in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan frowned slightly and looked at the light group. From the light group, he felt an extremely terrifying soul fluctuation, and this fluctuation was extremely pure, without any impurities. This is the origin of the soul. Xiao Yan remembered that he also captured a group when he was in the soul clan of the Btth2 continent. I'll show you something after you go out. It should be the secret treasure that the man in black killed the Mu family. Behind Xiao Yan, the voice of the Golden Dragon King came. He turned his head and saw that the ladder was also floating from the sky. Next, I just went to the big pit left by the man in black to find something. The origin of the soul. Xiao Yan muttered slowly in his mouth. Now, he naturally understands what this is, and he doesn't care what the Golden Dragon King said. The soul is the root of all beings in the world. All things in the world have souls, and deep in the soul, there is a trace of the origin of the soul. This is the root of the birth of the soul. Strange energy. Don't worry. I will avenge your revenge for you. A gentle word, but suddenly caused the soul light group to release a faint luster, vaguely, as if a lot of information was transmitted from it. Xiao Yan silently accepted the information. There were too many strong soul origins in the soul light group, but there was no spiritual wisdom in it. Some were just some resentment left before he died completely. Waiting for emotions, these emotions, it is quite difficult to completely refine them. If they are absorbed indiscriminately, they will inevitably affect the mind. But Xiao Yan's words just happened to quietly dispel these hidden negative emotions. This is another kind of consolation of wisdom from the origin of these souls. They were all powerhouses in their lifetimes. Even if they died, using the power at the end will make it difficult for the people who killed them. Although it seems easy to defuse them, at least the people of the demon race will never say this, and they also know that Xiao Yan helped them kill them. To their murderers, sit down cross-legged and carefully integrate our soul origin. How far you can achieve depends on your fortune. The soul body of the sky seemed to be talking to Xiao Yan. Thank you, seniors. Xiao Yan also sat down cross-legged when he heard the words, adjusting his state to absorb the purest soul power. Xiao Yan sat cross-legged on a flat ground. In front of him, a light group about half a jong-sized lightly suspended. A soft and pure luster continued to diffuse out of it, shining on the surrounding grass blades, making the surrounding those grasses that had been depleted instantly turned lush and green. The power of this soul source is really pure, but it's really hard for these seniors. Xiaoyan murmured. Xiaoyan stared at the soul light group, let out a sigh of relief, and immediately stretched out his palm and touched the light group. With this contact, Xiaoyan could feel the vastness that filled the soul light group. The power of the origin of the soul, the feeling of UU reading link to www.ukanshu.com. Even if it is the power of the soul of Emperor Xiaoyan, it can't help but make the soul between his eyebrows feel extremely warm. Emperor Realm souls are divided into 4 levels: entry level, immortal level, transcendent saint level, and consummation level. The Golden Dragon King said slowly. Wow! The soul light group slowly fluctuated in Xiaoyan's absorption, and bursts of crisp sounds like water splashes came from the tinling cover, and the power of the original soul was continuously injected into Xiaoyan's soul. Under such perfusion, a faint intoxication appeared on the face of the small figure formed by the soul above Xiaoyan's head. Under the wrapping of these original souls, he felt that his soul was like being surrounded by infiltrating in a warm light. It feels like the fetus is in the womb. Layers of faint strange crystal layers quietly emerged on the surface of the soul, and when you looked at it faintly, it was like a real human figure, extremely miraculous. This is the power of the soul of the Emperor Realm. The layers of faint strange crystal layers are actually protective layers that can resist the attack of the soul, quietly appearing on the surface of the soul to protect the most vulnerable soul. In the soul light group, there is an extremely terrifying soul source power. These source powers were only condensed from the millions of soul bodies captured by the man in black. Before such a vast soul source, even Xiaoyan, it's a tiny feeling of insignificance. Crash, as more and more soul sources were absorbed by Xiaoyan, circles of invisible fluctuations, also centered on Xiaoyan, slowly spread out. It suddenly became silent, and an invisible coercion spread instantly. Has the collection been successful? Continuing from the previous episode 22. Boom boom boom. After those seniors' soul source light clusters almost disappeared, all the light clusters also merged into Xiaoyan's body, and the small space that was originally isolated by the men in black also trembled violently. Bang! The other dimension began to slowly shatter. Xiaoyan has long since woken up and quit the cultivation state. All the energy of the soul source he absorbed before is stored in the soul realm, because the Golden Dragon King and Xiaoyan just said. Xiaoyan himself is also clear that it takes a lot of time to absorb the source of the soul to improve the strength of the soul. If you can go to Yu's house to find a safe place to make plans, otherwise the soul will be severely damaged, and the loss will be more than the loss. Immediately, it is also to absorb the soul source and store it in the soul realm to make plans. Seeing the immediate crisis resolved, Xiaoyan couldn't help but take a deep breath. It seems that this time I went to Yu's house to deal with things and went to retreat well, devoured the origin of my soul and practiced some fighting skills. Otherwise in this continent where the strong are like clouds it's impossible to walk at all. No wonder he thought so, after all the enemies Xiaoyan encountered these times were too powerful, and there were very few ways to deal with them. With a plan, he also stepped forward to use the soul power to awaken the 2 girls. Qing Yuan was obviously trying his best to exhaust his fighting qi. He couldn't wake up in a short time, and he was still in a coma. With the help of Xiaoyan, he slowly woke up. Just woke up and saw a big hole in the distance, and hurriedly asked Xiaoyan, that man in black should be the murderer who killed the Mu family in our Qingcheng recently, but what about the monster behind him? How did you solve it? What? In the face of Yuru's many problems, Xiaoyan also suffered from a headache. He couldn't say that he killed himself, so he could only prevaricate and say, I don't know, just when you passed out, that monster's body twitched for a while and then froze. It exploded, but it was indeed dead. Yu naturally wouldn't believe Xiaoyan's nonsense, but after the immediate crisis was lifted, he couldn't care less about these doubts, and the top priority was to save his father. With a sound of bang, the original small space was instantly shattered, and the scene of people coming and going on the street was restored. Yueru walked in the front and led the way, Xiaoyan followed behind with Qing Yuan in his arms. Strangely, Xiaoyan when I was holding Qing Yuan, I felt that the fighting spirit and even the strength of my soul and my body were recovering very quickly. Xiao Yi was also very reluctant to go back to Nanjing, so she changed it a little and wanted to become of a little girl appeared to follow Xiao Yan, but she went back unwillingly under Xiao Yan's warning, with an unhappy expression on her face. Along the way, even if she had just experienced a life or death moment, Yueru seemed to lead the way calmly, because she also knew that her father's time was running out. Those who disagree will take the opportunity. The consequences are unimaginable. Before arriving at a street in the Yu family mansion, Xiao Yan and Yu Ru also made a plan. After entering the courtyard, they would act separately. Yu Ru took Qing Yuan to the lounge to rest, and then came over to meet Xiao Yan. Yan went directly to the destination, and then slowly walked towards the huge palace not far away. On the way, Yueru told Xiao Yan that their Yu family is not peaceful now. In other words, there are some differences in the Yu family. Only a few cronies know about her father's severe injury, so the treatment is also to be done in the dark. Approaching the extremely majestic mansion, Xiao Yan was surprised to see that there were many people crowded at the door, and these people were all dressed in the robes of alchemists, with a few strands on their chests. The dazzling silver ripples proudly displayed their identity and rank. These are the juniors of our family, and you are of course not worth mentioning. Yueru also saw a pharmacist at the door and said, "On the streets where people come and go, all passers-by who pass by will turn their envious and awe-inspiring eyes to the group of alchemists who whisper to each other. In their hearts, pharmacists are a kind of noble a profession like an aristocrat. Follow me." Yu Ru took Xiao Yan and the others into the Yu family compound from a small path. Xiao Yan also knew that Yu Ru was obviously doing this to avoid the clan disagreement about which people arranged in the Yu family compound. "Miss, you're back." Just after entering the gate, a pretty maid hurriedly walked out of the side, and then said a few words to Yu Ru in a soft voice. Yu Ru took Qing Yuan and separated from Xiao Yan, and the maid walked away. Is to lead the way ahead. Following behind the maid in a hurry, Xiao Yan's eyes swept across this luxurious mansion. The towering and magnificent buildings made him nod slightly in secret. Leaving aside other things, this Yu family is indeed worthy of Qingcheng. One of the three major families, such wealth is definitely beyond the reach of ordinary people. Walking on the path made of cyan gravel, Xiao Yan's eyes suddenly narrowed slightly. In his sense, since he entered the depths of the Yu family, his soul sensed a mysterious and powerful aura. Hidden in every corner, he raised his head inadvertently, and glanced casually over an eaves, where some dark shadows, hidden in the darkness, were painted black, covering the sharp arrow tips reflected by the sun, slowly moving. Moving in the mansion, any slight disturbance will make them deliver the attack in an instant. The defense is indeed very strict. Xiao Yan frowned. Link to slightly www.novelmtl.com shook his head helplessly, and looked up at a luxurious hall that appeared at the end of the trail. There was a faint sight of a person standing among them. "Father." Just as Yu Ru took Qing Yuan to rest, she hurriedly ran over to meet Xiao Yan, and greeted the maid to go down. Yu Ru was left in a quaint room, Xiao Yan and a man whom Yu Ru called father, middle-aged man. "Yuer, are you back?" The middle-aged man's loving voice sounded. "Well, father, I brought back someone who can heal you this time." Yu Ru pushed Xiao Yan and said. Xiao Yan could see that this girl, Yu Ru, was very interested in her father. My pain won't get better for a while, so I don't have to work so hard." The middle-aged man shied away, but he was very relieved, because his daughter kept coming to him to heal people. Although it was all unsuccessful, the heart was felt. "This little friend, the old man Yu, since he came to my Yu's house, please ask the little friend to show me." The middle-aged Yu looked at Xiao Yan, who was brought back by his daughter, and looked carefully, but found that the young man in front of him doesn't seem to be that simple. Even with his own strength, he doesn't seem to be able to see through it. Xiao Yan looked at the middle-aged man who was a little yellowish in front of his eyes, and was not very good. He murmured to himself, 5-star Do Di. He really deserves to be the head of the family. Then he stepped forward, and Xiao Yi also summoned him instantly. Get ready to see what Yu said about the incurable pain of non-fire spirits. At the moment when the fire elf Xiao Yi was summoned, the temperature in the originally mild room instantly increased a lot, and Yu's originally bland eyes suddenly opened and she lost her voice. "It's actually a fire elf. continuing from the previous episode 23. Yu Yu's exclaimed voice immediately turned to look at the milky white terrifying high-temperature flames in front of her, and when she looked at her daughter Yueru, a trace of relief appeared. When I went to the Warcraft Mountains to hunt monsters, I was accidentally injured by the 9 nether fire on the body of a 9 nether sparrow that was comparable to the level of the 6-star Do-D. Inextinguishable. I have used many methods and can't erase the traces of flames, and the flames will devour my vitality. Today, I have no time, even if I read many ancient books to find it. A glimmer of hope. It is rumored that the fire elf or the holy flame is the king of flames in the world, and getting one of them may hopefully cure this 9 serenity fire. The middle-aged man in the room who was originally on the bed stared at Xiao Yi. Road. Little friend is really amazing. You can actually possess such a rare thing as a fire elf. If that's the case, then this old man's life will be handed over to your little friend. Let's say goodbye to life and death, don't worry. A decisive voice came from the house. Xiao Yan slowly approached the side room, and a faint soft light was coming out. Xiao Yan gently pushed open the door of the outer room. The inner room had quite a lot of space. In the center, a large bed was placed in it. A middle-aged man with a dry face was lying on it. Around the bed, several maids were waiting. Busy and busy, hearing the sound of the door, they cast their gazes and hurriedly walked down. Slowly approaching the big bed, Xiao Yan swept his eyes on the bed, and found that Yu Yu's face was faintly covered with a large gray-black color, and there was a hint of death on the quiet face. It's really serious, Xiao Yan said in a low voice, glancing at the middle-aged man's face where he almost stepped into the grave with half of his feet. Yeah, this kind of fire poison that can devour life force, I am afraid that even a 6-star duty powerhouse would not dare to easily mess with it. Father can survive so many years, and he has reached the limit. Behind him, Yueru also looked at the person in front of her with distress. Shaking his head, he immediately said cautiously, Xiao Yan, please do your best to save my father. Yueru's eyes were a little red, and her voice seemed to be much hoarse. Don't worry, it's not a big problem, I'm going to start. Be careful not to let anyone disturb me. Xiao Yan also agreed, and then said to Yueru, the state in front of me can only be eliminated by wrapping the strange fire in Yueya's body with soul power, so it needs a quiet place that will not be disturbed by others. Is the end of the loss. On the side, Yueru nodded, slightly moved. She knew very well that a large part of the reason Xiao Yan would help her was because of the president of the Alchemist Association. A pair of bright eyes stared at the tall, indifferent young man beside him. I don't have any other way, so I can only follow the method you said, Senior. Use the flame power of the fire spirit to enter the body, and then slowly expel the fire poison. Xiao Yan looked carefully and shook his head. He shook his head, calmly. In that case, the danger should be great, right? Hearing this, Yueru whispered slightly hesitantly. Less than 50% certainty. In the quiet house, Yu-Ru seemed to be talking in a low voice, occasionally turning her eyes to the two people beside the bed, and as time passed, watching the sweat dripping down her father's face and the blue veins on her arms throbbing. Yu-Ru's eyes showed some anxiety. It wasn't that she was afraid that Xiao Yan would poison her father, it was just that this method of eliminating toxins made Yueru feel distressed. My father has suffered too much in taking care of this family, and now he is suffering from such deep pain. How could Yueru not feel distressed? Xiao Yan's face was still calm, the fingers on Yu Yu's back trembled slightly, the faint milky white flame was constantly enveloped by the power of the soul, and then cautiously entered the latter's body, gradually using the high temperature to expel those in his body. It has invaded the 9 serenity fire poison, attached to the bones. The milky white flame is wrapped around the black bone. Although the two seem to be close to each other, but if you look carefully, you can find that there is a very small gap between them. The temperature of the different fire is too terrible. If it comes into direct contact with Yu Yu's bones, even if the opponent is a strong Do-D, he will definitely be seriously injured or even die in an instant. The fiery high temperature penetrated from the flame, and then slowly roasted those jet-black bones. As the milky white flame continued to smoke, wisps of black mist quietly emanated from the bones, and before escaping, a cluster of milky white flames swooped in, wrapped in, and took advantage of the terrifying high temperature to gradually the brand poison mist which even the strong Do Emperor had to treat with dignity, was smoldered and turned into nothingness. However, when Xiao Yan used the strange fire to burn the black mist, he did not find it. At the moment when the black mist was about to evaporate, some inexplicable black things turned out to be slowly mixed with the milky white flame, and immediately became completely silent. He used powerful force to get rid of them. As time passed quietly, the jet black bones wrapped in Xiao Yan's milky white flames gradually returned to their normal colors at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this time, Dua's whole body was soaked with sweat. The middle-aged face seemed to be decades old, twitching constantly, and the sound of sucking cold air leaked out from the gap between the teeth. Refreshing. It's been a long time since I've been this refreshing. The little brother is really good. Yu felt that the 9 Serenity fire, that had been entrenched in her body for a long time without moving, actually retreated slowly in front of the milky white flame controlled by Xiao Yan. That feels as if Zhu Yuhuo's fear comes from the heart. This fire elf is really powerful. Yu just wanted to take a closer look at Xiao Yan, but she couldn't imagine that the 9 nether fire in her body was squeezed into one place more and more urgently, and her fist died immediately. Squeezed to death, the blue veins swayed on his arm, like a small snake. Yu's voice was a little hoarse and trembling. Behind him, Xiao Yan's forehead was also covered with sweat. Such a long time of manipulating the strange fire to use it with such a high degree of precision was also a considerable burden on his soul power. He was still with the man in black. During the battle, his soul strength did not return to normal, and he was still struggling. Hearing Yu's trembling question, he nodded slightly. He said softly, "Keep your breath. Now I have gathered the 9 secluded fires at one point, and you're done." Yu heard that she also gritted her teeth and pushed forward. The teeth made a slight noise, and large drops of sweat fell on her forehead. Obviously how painful it is, the pain that burns to the bone. Puff puff. Yu spat out a few mouthfuls of black blood, and the blood exuded a scorching temperature. As soon as she landed on the ground, Xiao Yi was surrounded by milky white flames. Ha ha ha, it's comfortable. Yu found out from the blood she had just spit out, that the 9 Serenity fire, entrenched in her body, was also expelled from the body at this moment. When the last ray of milky white flame was recovered into his body, Xiao Yan breathed a sigh of relief, wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, and said with a smile, "The basic 9 secluded fires have been eliminated, and they will recover after a few days of training, Father." Yueru saw that her father's face had regained some blood, and she did not care about Xiao Yan's existence in this room. She swooped on her father, who had just escaped danger, and instantly burst into tears. "Daddy, I said you'll be fine. Do you think it's all right now?" Wu tilde.